Hi, my name is Jeremy. This is Red Means Recording, and we are back with the Ashun Sounds Machine Hydrasynth. In the first video, we talked about the overall panel layout, we talked about oscillators, we talked about the filter section, we talked a bit about the voice section. In this video, I want to talk about the mutants, the mixer, and probably the ribbon. So yeah, let's get started. Mutants are very, very powerful shaping tools to turn any sound into a much more complex sound. So what I've just done is I've initialized this patch, and I'm going to start with this saw here. Actually, you know what? I'm going to start with a sine because things are going to get really complicated really fast in terms of the sound. So each oscillator 1 and 2 have 2 mutants. Oscillator 3 does not. So the first mutant is FM linear. And you can see on our O-scope that we are getting visual output of how this is affecting it. So FM is frequency modulation. In this case, it's linear frequency modulation. And you can see that we are sending oscillator 1 currently. So it's modulating itself. I can have oscillator 2 do that. And if I go into oscillator 2 and start messing around with this, we will hear oscillator 2's effect when it's frequency modulating oscillator 1. Of course, because you have access to all these incredibly complex wavetables, you can get very, very crazy complex sounds. You have a depth control, ratio, and as you saw with oscillator 2, so now we're at 20 semitones up. If I go to 24 or 12 or 7, we're going to hear, because those are more consonant intervals, we're going to hear a more consonant sort of interaction here. You can also hold shift here and change this in incremental steps, which is really nice. So that's a saw modulating a sine wave, which just gives you this really cool complex wave folding shape, which is really, really nice. All right, next mode, wave stack. So oscillator 1, we're going to turn to a saw. We have no other oscillators on. Wave stack is like an instant super saw. So go to mutant 1. There's our saw. So one of the ways that this is cool is if I go, so that's oscillator 1 right now. If I go to oscillator 2 and turn it up, go over here, do also the wave stack thing for this one. Go to mixer and pan these. Just get this massive chord stack with no effects. It's just the modulators. So that's cool. Oscillator sync. Again, we have a source. So let's go ahead and hear what that sounds like. Again, you can hold shift. Pretty awesome sound. Next up, pulse width, original. This is pretty simple pulse width modulation. PWM. Ratio is going to give you variations on. Ooh, that's really cool. The closer you get to a pure ratio, like 2 or 1, the sort of like more harmonic or consonant the sound will be. And since I'm just right on the edge there, I'm getting a very cool beating sound. It's very, very cool. Next up, pulse width modulation, squeeze. Now, this pulse width one that says pulse width ASM is very, very cool. So what's going to happen here is I'm going to change this to a sine. And we're going to go into this custom edit thing here. I'm going to go to custom edit, and we have 8 warp points. And they represent sort of 8 stages linearly in the wave file, in the wave form, excuse me. So watch what happens when I start playing with this. See that starts to warp the beginning of the wave cycle. That would be the end of the wave cycle. And of course, all of these stack. This is all from a pure sine wave. Go back to my mutant. Adjust the depth to go from that sine all the way back. And you know what else is crazy? Each one of those warp points can be modulated or assigned to a macro. So let me just show you that real quick just because it's kind of neat. I'm going to go to macro assign. I'm going to edit macro 1. I'm going to go down to here. I'm going to hit mutant 1. And I'm going to scroll here until I get to warp 1. And then I can adjust this. So I'm going to copy this mod matrix assignment or macro assignment to this by holding down this one and pressing the next one over. Can't do it if it's highlighted, but now I'm going to move that to warp 2, turn it up, unhighlight, do it here, and we'll just do 3 warps. So now if I go back home, I have macro assigned, and we're warping those, we're moving around those 3 warp points that we've set up, which is pretty cool. Let's go ahead and move this ratio back. Hydrasynth can get nasty. Nasty. It's a nasty boy. All right, so finally we have harmonic. And guess what? You need something with harmonics. So let's pick a harmonically rich wave, go into our mutant again. So that's what our wave sounds like. And now it's gone. And phase difference, which was added in a new firmware update recently. So, I mean, obviously, I have all of these turned up to 11 so that you could sort of really hear what it's doing to the sound. But subtle use of these can give you some really nice sort of modulation on pads and stuff like that if you are a little nicer with it. So guess what? You have 2 of those for each of the first 2 oscillators. So let's go ahead and pick one of these. Let's go to envelope 3 to modulate mutant 1. Cool, and then let's go to mutant 2. Pick an interesting one. Let's go to LFO 3 and modulate mutant 2. And we're going to do the depth. We're going to go to LFO 3. And we're going to... So let's go to LFO 3. Turn on BPM sync. Make it a ramp down. Complex modulation, oscillator mutators can get really wild, especially when you start routing them into themselves. Fucking wild. I love it. So that's it for today. I think we just talked about mutants. That's fine. They're really powerful and really crazy. Yeah, I hope you're having fun. I love this thing to death. Anyways, my name is Jeremy. This is Red Means Recording, and I hope you have a wonderful day.